Hello Summoners, and welcome to another episode of ProGuides OP Picker Ban, now on patch 10.16. These are the champions that are a bit overtuned for one reason or another, so they have the power to affect your games more than they otherwise should. In light of that, you'll be wanting to either deny their existence altogether or secure them for your own team. But before we get started, today's question of the day is, what do you think are the worst champs in each role? We cover the OPs, but what do you think needs some buffs? Please let us know your answers in the comments below, or join our Discord in the description box below to discuss that and tons more. And one last thing, be sure to visit us at ProGuides.com. We have the best roster of coaches, top-tier live classes from instructors like Mike Young and Zyrene, and courses covering a variety of roles and champs from your favorite pro players like Doublelift. We want to help you guys improve where you're lacking and polish up where you're already strong so you can reach your season goals. Now, let's get into this video, shall we? Starting off in the top lane, Shen is our first OP champ. His buffs on 10.15 bumped him up a bit, and he doesn't really have many losing matchups.
Tread carefully.
Mages or AP tanks, rush Wit's End and kill them. AD bruisers, go Sunfire Cape and Titanic and kill them. Range top laners like Quinn, Bramblevest, and Ninja Tabby and kill them. Yeah, like I said, not too many bad lanes. His passive, the part of his kit that was buffed on 10.15, gives him really strong short trades, especially coupled with his Q and Grasp of the Undying. His Q's empowered autos even let him shred other tanks, making him pretty much unduelable. His W's area of effect makes it so auto attack based champs can't even return, so for matchups that would otherwise be somewhat close, timing this well makes it so they can't even retaliate. E gives you both a way to force your oppressive trades in lane and an escape from ganks, so don't go too aggro until you know where the enemy jungler is. Of course, like any super strong duelist, Shen loves to split push at mid to late game. Unlike the other duelists though, Shen doesn't even need to have TP to join fights. His ult is both quicker and able to get right into the middle of a skirmish since he shields and ports right on top of an ally. Good laning phase, great split pushing, and a fight turning global ult? Yeah. Definitely OP, so pick him or deny him from the other team. Speaking of split pushers, Fiora is pretty much the best in the game, and she got a pretty nice buff this patch.
Prepare to die.
While not as consistent in the laning department as Shen, when you do get her in a good matchup, or when you at least survive the rougher ones, pretty much no champ in the game can contain you. You kill squishier carries in just a few hits, and there's really no such thing as a tank when you can deal a pretty big percentage of max HP as true damage. Her passive gives great damage and healing when you proc it, and the main way of doing so in lane is to wait for a vital to be on your side of the enemy, use Q to lunge in, strike the vital, and immediately back off with the movement speed you get. Doing this a few times in lane builds an HP lead and lets you do what you want with the lane. Honestly, many people use Fiora's W to just block damage or reflect a CC ability at an opponent for a stun, but what a lot of people don't take into account is the crippling attack speed slow she gets just for hitting an enemy with it, regardless of what she blocks with the parry. This can easily give her the edge when fighting auto attackers in the top lane like Aurelia and Tryndamere. E isn't anything too flashy, but the slow lets you stick to targets trying to escape, and the extra damage on the second hit gives you the edge in extended trades. Her ult has a lot more to it than bam extra damage. The movement speed lets you escape from tricky situations or chase fleeing opponents. Forcing 4 vitals to spawn means that you get a lot of healing and have a way to cut down even the tankiest of enemies. And once the target dies, the AoE heal can be huge in turning a fight, be it 5v5 or 1v9. So if split pushing to hard carry your games is your style, 100% pick up this champ. And here's a quick review of the top lane builds. Moving on to the jungle. Nunu is constantly in and out of the revolving door lately, either being pretty good or really good, especially with his flexibility between mid and jungle.
Playtime's never over!
But this patch, we pinned him as an OP jungler with the increasingly popular phase rush build. Running this lets you engage on and chase down squishies to lock them down even if they flash, and thanks to the tankiness and crazy healing you have, you don't really need Aftershock. On top of having huge CC, the little bit of AP from Proto Belt goes a long way in giving some nice damage, and you can consider mixing in things like Magi's or Liandry's to experiment with taking it even further. His passive makes his clear nice, and in team fights has the added bonus of buffing up your ADC. Q's sustain gives you a pretty much full HP jungle clear, heals you for a ton in fights, and comboing with smite means you should win basically every smite fight on Baron and Dragon. Snowball is great for ganking and starting fights, and even if they flash it on your first pass through, good driving means you can steer into them for a second shot at catching out even the most elusive enemies. E lets you follow up your W engage, slowing and rooting them before you start channeling your ult. Ult has huge damage potential if you pull off a full channel, but most of the use in 5v5 team fights will be as a zoning tool, forcing the enemy team to scatter out of fear of the huge explosion. Those that try to push through your ult to reach carries will fail as the slow intensifies, so while it isn't a skill shot per se, choosing where to ult can be huge in deciding fights for your team. So if you want a tanky, insanely CC heavy jungler that can secure every objective, pick Nunu up ASAP, or ban him, your choice. If being a tanky CC bot isn't your style, how about a perma-stealthed one-shotting assassin?
Hope you like it rough.
Evelynn, like Nunu, has been either pretty good or really strong, but the buffs on this patch are huge, giving her much better damage output when she's not yet strong enough to fully one-shot people. This isn't going to make her able to outright duel every other jungler in the game, but gives her a much stronger 2v2 and finishing ability on ganks, and therefore an easier time making it to her deadly perma-stealth power spike at level 6. Aside from the stealth, her passive also gives sustain up to a certain amount of HP every time she's out of combat, meaning you're never really too low as long as you regen a bit between camps early game. Once you have a lot of AP later in the game, this threshold can go way up to the point that you can go into a fight, one-shot someone, and back out to stealth and heal back to pretty much full to go for another pick. Q is your bread and butter, with the super low CD and AoE damage giving a super fast jungle clear. W's charm is great for pulling off ganks and has the added bonus of shredding a huge amount of magic resist, and coupled with her E's percent of max HP damage, even tanks can be bursted down from full HP. If your initial combo doesn't one-shot your victims, ult is a great way to finish things off, with its damage being immensely increased against low HP targets. More than just a finishing move, using ult's blink can be used to slip away as quick as you showed up, or just to dodge skill shots and escape from bad situations. So with her buffs basically eliminating the only weak part of Eve's game, there's no reason not to play her. But if you still refuse, don't let the enemy team get a hold of her. In case you missed them, here are those jungle builds one more time. Some champs have a bit of a bumpy start on the Rift, but Yone is on the other end of the spectrum. He's hitting the ground rolling with his release.
I will save you from yourself.
Being pretty strong at all stages of the game, with his teamfight being especially powerful. His passive gives him double crit, just like Yasuo, but unlike Yasuo, instead of a shield, the other half of his passive converts some of his damage into magic damage on every other auto. So even tanks stacking armor won't be able to shrug off his damage. His Q has a triple combo effect like Yasuo, but instead of knocking up with a tornado, Yone himself lunges in to damage and knock up enemies, allowing him to get deeper into a fight and onto high priority targets. Hitting an enemy with his arcing W shields Yone, with the shield being stronger per enemy hit, and deals a pretty good chunk of max HP as magic damage, doubling down on his ability to bully tanks. His E ties the rest of his kit together to give him an assassin feel, and it lets him dive deep into the enemy team before snapping back out to safety. His ult is what's really going to make you feel like the playmaker, as his ability to knock up and pull all enemies in gives you huge setup, especially if you have Yasuo on your team. Expect a bit of a learning curve, as with any new champ, but once you master him, Yone is sure to be an insanely strong champ that can carry your games. If you're intimidated at the thought of learning him, visit us at ProGuides.com, where our challenger level coaches can help you with that and more.
Ignorance is fatal.
Creeping up since his buffs on patch 10.14, Zed is definitely in a great spot right now, and thanks to the popularity we are sure to see in both Yasuo and Yone, he's going to be a great pick since he actually has a decent lane against both of them. Zed's passive makes last hitting a breeze. It's pretty much impossible to miss minions even when farming under tower, and when you full combo an enemy champ, that extra execute on your auto is just enough to finish them off. Q turns Zed into a melee champ with not just good wave clear but insanely annoying poke. W doubles down, giving you a second shuriken, and gives you a way to slow enemies when you hit enemies with your clone's mirrored E. It also serves as a gap closer, allowing you to reach even the safest of priority targets at the back of a fight. When not on the offense, it can also be used as a quick way to dodge skill shots and escape ganks. Zed's ult is of course what makes him such a cool flashy champ. Its untarget ability can be used for huge outplays, dodging damage and CC as you mark an enemy for death. You can even use it a second time to swap places with the shadow it leaves to further break your opponent's ankles. If you can handle a high mobile mechanical assassin, definitely give Zed a shot. Take another look at the mid builds right here. Still here from last patch, Kate continues to be a godly ADC. Her super high range lets her bully out pretty much anyone else in the lane, and Ashe being nerfed in this patch pushes her up just a little bit more.
Want to see a hat trick?
And unlike most other lane bullies, she doesn't have a fall-off point. In fact, she's one of the best scaling carries in the game. The headshots from her passive give her a huge trading tool as long as you time the stacks well and fight around them. Q gives fast wave clear, so you can get the enemy laners under their tower to harass them more, and enemies that make the mistake of getting clipped by one get chunked out hard. An especially good combo with Kate is to use E and then Q immediately after starting the net to disengage the enemy with net slow, as the enemy is hit with the Q and follow up with headshot. After getting BF Sword, this combo will chunk out even the tankier supports in the bottom lane and makes engaging on Kate a lot more trouble than it's worth. W's traps serve as a zoning tool, but can also be paired with a support with long-lasting CC, like Morgana, for a deadly CC chain that results in an enemy dying from being hit by just a single snare. And don't make the mistake that most Kate players do. Instead of just relying on ult to be a finishing move, you can also use it to massively chunk out squishier targets before fights around neutral objectives or when sieging a tower. So for her ability to excel at laning, sieging, objective control, and teamfights, Kate is a must-have when maining ADC. And if you feel like you have a good idea of what you're doing but need a bit of help with learning to use traps the right way or exactly where to position in fights, be sure to visit us at ProGuides.com where we can help with any of those concepts in more detail. With some buffs a while back to her soul collection rate when she's the one killing minions, Senna ADC slowly started to gain some traction.
Try to keep up.
And now she's one of the best picks in the role. Taking Glacial Augment and Approach Velocity gives really strong trading, since the slow on the enemy and movement speed buff on yourself means you can always chase them down or kite them out, leaving you free to stack your passive freely. In an ideal situation, you'll be able to stack up that passive and reach 700 plus range at late game, giving you the ability to kite and shred enemies before they can even touch you. Q serves multiple functions. It grants some wave clear with its AoE damage, pokes the enemy champs if you line it up well, heals yourself and any allies in it, and since it counts as an auto attack, you can even slow your opponents with Glacial to help set up some ganks. W's super long range doubles down on that, being a pretty far range route with a fat hitbox, letting you either follow up on CC, start the fight yourself, or to halt the enemy's attempt at going aggro for themselves. E's movement speed can be nice for escaping from sticky situations, but can also be used in creative ways when going on the offense. Since the other team won't know how many allies are in the mist with you, it can be used as a shuttle for a surprise gank from someone else on your team. Ult's long cooldown is there for good reason. The combination of damaging an enemy and shielding an ally can help in the 2v2, but it can also turn a fight on the other side of the map, and is absolutely huge in teamfights. Pick her up or put her down. Here are those ADC builds one last time. Finally, on to the supports. With Karma being nerfed and her ability to pair so well with Kate, Morgana is a super strong pick now. Her Q can give good trading in lane or just disengage enemy aggression, but it really shines outside of lane when you're grouped with your team.
Darkness is a gift!
Landing a 3-second root when grouped as 5 is pretty much a guaranteed way to secure a kill for your team, which usually leads to bigger leads like towers and dragon or baron. W gives more huge lane strength as it makes her a support that can provide substantial pushing power, and early in the game it deals a decent amount of damage when you put it under an enemy you hit with a snare. E's shield is what really makes Morgana a god tier support, letting you turn a hyper carry into a CC immune monster as long as the shield holds, and preventing any engage attempts from the enemy. As a support, you won't want to go for huge 5-man ults. Instead, use ult to mostly peel for your carry, or follow up on a Q snare to further CC an enemy when going for a catch. All in all, Morgana provides peel, catch, and makes a carry unstoppable, and what more can you ask for in a support? Do yourself a favor, pick or ban this champion.
Like a tiger.
With lots of other supports being nerfed, Yuumi has a little bit more wiggle room to scale up, and when she does, she's by far the best support in the game. She's considered pretty much a hyper carry, except instead of carrying by killing the enemy, she carries with her insane healing and stat contribution to her allies. Her passive shield can give nice sustain in lane, and scales pretty high at late game, reaching as much as 1/3 of a carry's HP. Her Q gives a bit of annoying harass in lane, with the slow proving a bit of extra peel when escaping or catch when chasing enemies. Your W is useful more than just attaching to an ally to keep you nice and safe. It gives you the option to position depending on what you need to do. You can swap between allies as they need heals, find a better angle for your other spells, or just sit on a carry to grant a huge amount of adaptive stats at late game. Ease heal is nice, but the attack and movement speed buffs are what make Yumi such a crazy scaling enchanter. Giving hyper carries additional attack speed and movement speed to kite and kill threats goes from annoying to deal with to impossible to deal with as the game goes on. And if all that isn't enough to keep your friends safe, Yumi's ult provides peel covering a huge area. Or when going on the aggression with her kit, her ult can be layered on your ally's CC to lock down the entire enemy team. So if you want to play for scaling and be as unbearable as possible to play against, Yumi is it for you. But if not, save yourself the frustration and ban this champ. And here are those support builds one more time. And that's it for OP Picker Ban 10.16 edition. Remember to let us know what champs you think are the worst in each role in the comments below, and make sure to check out our website for more in-depth content and guides that were made by your favorite pro players and streamers. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and good luck out on the Rift.